Hi, it's Kim and welcome to the channel today. What I'm going to do today is to clean up the front garden bed. A lot of my tufa pots need to be moved, and I think I'm going to revamp and get rid of the hostas. My daughter's home this week, and so she can help dig. Basically, she is doing the digging, and we're going to move them. I'm going to put them back by the garden shed out back. There's just too many hostas. They're too close to the lawn area, too hard to mow around. So we're moving those out and going to kind of redistribute the the Hypertufa containers around the front garden bed. You can see where I've moved some of the round ones over into the center there. Now these are some garden planters that you've seen before. Each of these has been out there, I think, since we moved here. We're in our third spring here, and there's some of my Hephelii, and Sempervivum that I've put in these pots, and my most favorite, the Immigruntian sedum. Now the only flowers I have out here, other than just the ones that bloomed on the hostas, is geraniums, the perennial geraniums. In the spring, this weeping cherry does bloom. But over on this side, we got rid of a big planter that was there next to the sidewalk. It had broken when we moved here, but we set it side by side, but finally decided we'd just go ahead and move it. But you can see how the sedum falls out of the pot and then starts to grow into the garden. And I wanted to kind of fix that, clean it up, because when we mulch and everything over, it'll just be easier to mulch straight over the beds. Not sure how long that'll last, because I do like to see little things sprouting in the soil, but after a while it starts to look a little messy. But you can see a lot of it is close to the lawn area. When they mow, it's hard to mow up around there, and even when I've moved the bowls now, there's still an area for them to have to avoid. Now we found a lot of flagstone that we've parceled out. There's my Persian shield that I've got planted out front next to the big Hypertufa, and I've made some other videos about planting the Hypertufa full of Swedish ivy and erodium, and so far that's turned out to be a really good idea. It's grown well there. There is a Japanese maple right over, but I really think we're having problems with our Japanese maple this year. It got a really hard freeze in May, and that seemed to have killed part of the branches and part of the growth. And even though we trimmed some, it just lets, I don't know, the little leaves have died all year. You can see every now and then, you can see the little red leaves lying in the ground here. But the Swedish ivy does well with the amount of shade and sun that it gets here. The erodium's done well, and there's even some baby tears that are trying to peep out. I've not had good luck with my baby tears this year. I don't know why. Maybe I just haven't faithfully watered them as much as I should have. But everything else is looking good, and I love the purple Persian shield next to there. It's done real well. Now the boxwood, so far it's done really well. These are two of the Hypertufa bowls I've moved back from the edge of the lawn. You can see kind of scruffed up areas where they were and where bits and pieces have dropped off of them and started to grow. And for the most part I like that, but I don't like it to get too big and scraggly. Now this particular large Hypertufa is the sedum tile thing that I planted from Lowe's. It has grown so well. It's done very, very good and has stayed thick. Now when we moved it, you can see I've got my bricks a little out of shape, but sometime when the guys are out there and can move it and shift it, I'll get that straightened up. And I chose to set this basket Hypertufa there in the corner. I thought it looked real good. That's one of my favorites, with those lines deep etched in the side. It's got a lot of Immigruntian in it, which blooms with really intense yellow in the spring. Now that one is a Roseanne geranium. I planted that at the top of the hill, and it's really taken off this year. And you can see all the sedum that's grown down the boulder hillside. And I am actively trying to pull out the Stelladoro lilies there because I just want something different. Now we have a large bush that was here, about a 6-foot tall bush, shrub, tree. I don't even know what it was named, but it has just deteriorated over the years that we've been here. We've pulled limbs from it, trimmed them, but it just won't recover. And it suckers a lot coming up from the ground, so it just won't maintain a pretty tree shape. So we're going to get rid of that. Maybe plant something different. Now that's some of the immergruntian that's dropped off the planters, and it's growing a nice mat there. That's kind of a long view of the Rose of Sharon hedge. It's a little too far in the distance to see the white and pink flowers there, but you can see those bare spots where the pots were. I've got to reweed this area and then just lift some of these to plant them someplace else. I do want to keep them growing in the hillside. Now this spot by the boxwood was where that one in the background there sat. That one right there, we've moved it over by the front where we moved out the other one that was split when we moved here. But we decided just to take that and move it elsewhere out back in my misfit tufas area. But I'll show you how it's easy to dig this up and just reposition it and get it where you like. There's really nothing to it. Now some of this I'm going to pull up and repot. The sempervivum I'm trying to keep there. Some of this is that Hueflei, and the other is the sempervivum that grows so well on the opposite end of the flower beds. I'm trying to get that to really start matting in here. Now this is another one of the pots that I could never get erodium to take hold this year. I don't know why or for what reason. And here's the geranium, the big root geranium, or snake root I think it's sometimes called. It blooms real well over the year and has pretty foliage in the fall, but the blushing turtle just keeps blooming all year. It's trying to span out, but it has gotten really choked in lately, and I've had to clean out these areas here to kind of, I don't know, relieve some of the stress against others. And I pulled some of the sempervivum from here so that I could pot it in other places. And I've got a little bit of dye out right here in the center of this pot. I don't know if it's from my favorite little chipmunk diggers here, but I'm hoping that they'll leave the sempervivum alone and not try to eat them. I have had them eat some in other spots, and I just hate it when they eat it. But these sempervivum are doing real well, really spreading, making a nice cluster on the edges. Look how pretty that looks. I love the color. It's just perfect for what I need out here. And they have spread really, really well. So I really think removing the hosta and getting it away from all the edges will make it easier to mow. My husband will appreciate that, and will Joe too. Sorry, my son-in-law. But let me just show you how easy it is to move these. These are some of those patches I showed you in the distance that I need to move. Basically, all I needed was just a spade and a tray, and you just kind of slide your spade up under it. They hardly have roots. They're not very deep underground, so you can just push up under them and scatter them. Tiny bits and pieces, you can just lift them with your fingers when you have a big bunch of them left over. But they can just be lifted up and moved. And right now, since I've been busy trying to populate the boulder hillside, I just squeeze them in between the boulders, and it really has worked out well. And I'll be doing the same to the rest of these. Now over here at the top of the boulder hillside, I'm just going to scoop up a big patch of it and just put it in between the boulders. Press it down into the ground and it takes care of the rest of it. That's basically all you need to do. And the tiny sprigs and everything, they'll grow too. Just wedge them up in the cracks and then they'll be climbing over the sides. So it works out just fine. I want to eventually get all that Stelladoro pulled out of there and replace it with the sedum, because the sedum doesn't take any care. Just cut off the blooms in the springtime. And that's all you have to worry about. But, of course, no hummingbirds when I have my camera out. But thanks for joining me today, and I hope you stick around and watch a few more videos. Thanks for watching.